We have talked for years and years about how golf is the game for a lifetime, and in many instances, it can help shape a life. One of the ways that happens is through the really cool, really powerful Evans Scholar Program. And whenever we have the chance to celebrate one of those great stories and encourage all of you to become part of helping build another one of those great stories, we want to do that. So I'm going to welcome in a couple of guests. First, my friend David Robinson, who for a long time has had his fingers in this world of the Evans Scholar Program. And we're going to meet today Ainslie Woodward, who is a shining example of what powerful things this can do and how golf kind of comes together, David, to help shape lives. How long for you have you been part of this whole Evans Scholar world?
You know, it's going on 30 years, believe it or not, Bill. I had a friend and a mentor at Red Run named Bob McMasters, and I approached him in the late 80s about how I could get more involved in the game of golf. I did not play golf as a kid. I grew up on the east side of Detroit and went to night school for 8 years to get an undergraduate degree. But when I got a good job and I was able to join Red Run, I wanted to combine my passion for the game of golf with my passion for seeing that underprivileged kids and kids that didn't have access to higher education could get that opportunity. And my God, there's nothing better than, the Evans Scholars Program. And so for 30 years, I've been a director of the WGA, Western Golf Association, for 26 years now. And I was honored and fortunate enough to be the chairman in 2016 and 17.
There have been a few times over the years where I've been kind of in on the discussion, the interview parts for the students who are, they're hoping, they're not just hoping, by the way, in many cases, they are praying for this thing to come through because it is a game changer. So before we dig into Ainslie's story, for those in our audience who don't understand the full impact and the scope of what an Evans Scholar Award looks like, why don't you paint that picture for us?
Well, I'm going to start by telling you that it is one of the most transformative scholarships and scholarship programs that you could possibly identify. And I think Ainslie would probably say the same thing. It is a scholarship for caddies. It is certainly one of the largest privately funded scholarship programs in the country. We look at their performance as a student. We look at their performance as a caddy. Their ability to succeed in college, and their work ethic and their outside interests. And so, Bill, our program has grown so rapidly and so in a big way, particularly the last 15 years, where we now have 22 chapters throughout the country, including 2 in the state of Michigan, one at Michigan State and one at Michigan, which is where Ainslie went. We have 1,100 kids in school starting right now, 1,100, including 315 newly granted scholarships for the fall of 2022-2023 school year. It's a $30 million annual cost. We do a really good job of negotiating great rates with state. And our program, one of the things we're most proud of is that our program has grown to the point in stature where universities are actually recruiting us now. Rutgers, we're going to have scholars at Rutgers for the first time this fall. They came to us. We're going to have scholars at Notre Dame now for the past 8 years. They actually came to us because they weren't getting the kind of kids that we attracted. And these universities know we have a 95% graduation rate. When you tell people in academia that your program that's as large as ours has a 95% graduation rate, they're astounded by that fact.
Yeah, that's going to catch their attention for sure. And if I understand correctly, at least at Michigan and at Michigan State, on their campuses, there are Evans houses where your scholars live. And this award, you talk about $30 million. Yeah, there's a reason why. It's a massive award. It's everything, correct? It covers tuition, books, it covers room and board. It's full boat.
It is. It's a tuition and housing scholarship. So we have houses where our kids stay at in each one of our chapters. At Michigan, our chapter house is on Washington Avenue, and on Michigan State's campus, it's right on Grand River. So we have great locations at those two campuses. We have a few more kids at the Michigan State house right now than the Michigan house. I think we probably have 60 at Michigan and more than 80 at Michigan State. So that's remarkable just in the state alone, but it is a tuition and housing scholarship. The kids have to pay for their own books, and there's a modest house fee to cover things like facility or supplies and cable TV and so forth. But it's very modest. So yeah. I think each scholarship right now is worth about $120,000.
Well, that's incredible. So Ainslie, let's get into some of your story. When did you first become aware that there was this thing called the Evans Scholar Program?
Yeah, so I began caddying the summer before my 8th grade year of high school. I mean, my 9th grade year of high school. So that's about 10 years ago. I'm 23 now, and I started when I was 13. And during the caddy training, my caddy master just lightly mentioned, like, there's a scholarship for, caddies who caddy for more than 2 years, have great academic performance in high school. And it was just a thought for me at that moment. I originally got the job just to make a few extra dollars for high school, things that I needed for after school activities and just to take a little financial load off my mother. But it wasn't until I began caddying more that summer in 2013 or 2012, 2013, where I understood, like, I actually had a chance at getting the scholarship. And it was because I met people like Mr. Robinson and other green coats at Red Run who kept putting it in my ear, like Ainslie. Because it was during this time where I was, I thought I was going to play high school football, but I wasn't really like invested in it. And a couple of people were in my ear, like, Ainslie, if you caddy full time, you take it seriously and keep up with your academics, getting this Evans Scholarship would be a good opportunity for you to continue your education. So that was really when I decided that it was in my best interest to take caddying serious.
It's interesting you say that, because that comes at a time of life where peer pressure is a real thing. And it's probably not nearly as popular amongst your friends to say, no, I'm going to keep on caddying instead of being on the football team with all your buddies. So there must have been some level of maturity to you that was kind of thinking longer term, knowing which of the two routes was more likely to perhaps end at a college scholarship. Were you giving that sort of thing a thought back in 9th grade?
I'll be honest, in 9th grade, like, college was definitely something that I was considering and that I wanted to do, but it was more so about the money that I was making on the golf course. So because like I said, like, knowing that you can get a scholarship is so far away when you're 13, 14 years old. So for me, it was the everyday going out there and, being around successful people in the Royal Oak, Metro Detroit area. And just, like I said, going out there on Saturday and Sunday and making a good amount of cash was enough for me. And then, like I said, like, towards my 10th and 11th grade year is when I really learned that, I can leverage this and get a full ride scholarship to the University of Michigan, which is my dream school.
Yeah. So when you applied for the Evans scholarship, did you apply to a specific school, or did you apply for the scholarship and they told you which school had an opening? I'm not sure how that part of it works.
Oh yeah, I'll get into that. So it was instructed to me by members at Red Run Golf Course where I caddied. It was instructed that I should apply to both schools, the Michigan State and U of M, just so that you had options, right? Because I may get into Michigan State and not get into U of M, or I may get into U of M and not get to Michigan State. So it was always, or I might not get into either school. So it was always just instructed to apply to both, so that at least when you get into a university, that can help. If you're getting to the universities, you get the Evans Scholarship, then you like have a good chance of getting going through the program. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Dave, why don't you fill in the blanks on how the school decisions are made?
Yeah, so they definitely apply first for the Evans Scholarship, but concurrently they also apply to their schools. Some kids don't. It's unknown whether or not they're going to get an Evans Scholarship, so they have to keep their options open, and they're applying to a number of schools. But anyone who in our state applies for an Evans Scholarship, we strongly encourage them to apply to both universities. And, because we've been at both of those schools for more than 70 years now, we have a little bit of, look, I don't want to use the word clout, but we have a reputation of identifying top kids that are going to succeed in college. And so, they do give our kids strong consideration. But once they apply and once they're granted a scholarship, then of course, some kids, as Ainslie said, they get into one school and they don't get into the other. So that becomes a pretty easy decision for us as the Evans Scholar Foundation as to which school they're going to go to. If they get into both, some kids want to go into architecture, as an example. Michigan has a real strong architecture school. Some kids want to go into veterinary medicine, and so Michigan State obviously is a better choice for them. So it's a combo. If they get into both schools and accepted, it comes down to what they're interested in and what their school choice is, and we weigh those options.
Well, I mean, Ainslie already has impressed me as being a young man of fine judgment and choice making. And as a Wolverine graduate, Ainslie, who lived on North Campus, go blue. And I'm glad you're in Ann Arbor. And I want to go back to the moment that you found out you had been awarded this scholarship. There's an application process. There's an interview process in front of a panel of, I don't know if judges is the right word, but take us through how you got to that point, and then we'll talk about the moment.
Okay, so do you want to hear about the interview process or the moment that I knew that I got the scholarship?
I want to hear both, because I want to hear about the butterflies in your little belly there as you were getting ready to have to make your case.
And then Ainslie, I obviously have a great story of when you were interviewed. So you go first, and then I'll fill in.
For sure. So I'll go through the interview process first. So the first step is, getting the interview invite. And that basically just means that they want to hear more about your story and what do you plan to do after graduating high school. And so the interview day is basically, it's at a different country club every year. And the year in which I got my interview, it happened to be at Red Run Golf Course, which is my home course.
Home game.
Yeah, it was definitely a home game advantage for me. And it was a great day. We met back in the men's grill at Red Run. We got to meet other interviewees, which was pretty cool, from all different golf courses in Michigan. And we just sat and waited until our name was called. And after that, we were invited to the podium, and we were basically just asked questions. And first, we were introduced to the crowd, and we were asked questions about our essays, about our tenure caddying, just, questions to get you loose and get you comfortable for the crowd. And I would say that was a great experience. And Mr. Robinson will talk a little bit more about that later. And so that's the interview process. And then after that, you wait a few weeks. And I believe that year was December in which we got our acceptance letters. And that was just a surreal moment for me because I'm a December baby. I was born December 21st, so December is always a big month for me. And I believe that's also when I found out that I got into the University of Michigan. So the month was just crazy for me. And I happened to be with my best friend, Jared Ingram, who also applied to the Evans Scholarship that year. And we both got our acceptances on the same day, which is very unique. And we were actually with each other. We were driving to the YMCA to play basketball. And so his mom had our letters in the car. So we opened them up, and it was a great surprise for us. So I remember that day vividly because it was December, it was a good time. And I was with my best friend who applied. It was a great
moment. So cool. And then when you were able to let your mom know, I have to think there might've been a few tears shed.
Yes, it was. And I believe my mom was at work and I called her immediately. I think I must've called her immediately. Yeah, it was a great moment because my mom was so invested in my time caddying. Like all the members at Red Run knew my mom. My caddy master had a great relationship with her. So it was a great thing to let her know. And she was so proud. And she didn't care where I went. Like I said, I applied to both Michigan State and Michigan. So either school, I would have been ecstatic to have that opportunity.
Well, and part of your story, Ainslie, is a tribute to mom as well, because as I understand it, 21-ish years ago, you lost your dad in a kind of a tragic way. I don't know if you have memories of that being two, maybe not, but certainly since then you've come to appreciate how hard mom works, right, to keep the house together.
Oh, for sure. For both me and my sister. Yeah, mom was definitely heavily invested in our educational paths, our life paths, and she always helped us push us towards our goals. So she's done a phenomenal job. I'm forever grateful for her.
All right, David, give us the behind the scenes of what actually happened in this interview process.
So as you can see, Ainslie has a spirit about him that is really contagious, and it's palpable at Red Run. I mean, the members just really took a liking to him. He was there. He worked really hard. He was probably one of our top caddies for 4 years. And he's one of these kids that just gets it. He's always got a smile on his face. He always has a positive attitude. He's engaging. He's really a remarkable young man. And so the interview, as he said, was a home game for him during his year. And as he said, we do move it around the state. So Red Run only hosts the selection meeting probably once every dozen years. And so, he was fortunate enough to have a home game. But if I recall correctly, because it was at Red Run, his interview was one of the last of the day. And, so we're interviewing 32 kids throughout that day. It's a really long day. So I'm sure that he had a long day stewing there and being nervous and, excited and enthusiastic for his interview. But so he comes into the interview room and we introduced him, and I was there. And so his interview was just fabulous, similar to the way he is today. He's got a smile, he's engaging, he's positive, and he answered his questions with enthusiasm. But by the end of the interview, he just had everyone eating out of his hand. And so the interview's over, and the last question is typically, what if you were to receive this scholarship, what would it mean for you and your family? And of course, Ainslie took a moment and he started thinking about it, and he just broke down crying. And so every one of us, I get emotional just thinking back to it.
Yeah.
Every one of us starts crying. So then Ainslie takes a minute, and one of the people at the podium kind of gave him a hug. He had the presence of mind to turn back to the crowd, which is, probably 75 people. And he said, I just want to take a moment to thank you for your time today and for your interest in me. And I wish my arms were long enough to give all of you a hug. And it was just one of those moments. And I thought, how did he have the presence of mind to think about such a terrific comment?
Yeah. And Ainslie, in that moment, what was going through your mind that led to that emotion?
It's just a difficult question, knowing how much you're banking on getting this scholarship, right? Because college is an expensive thing to pursue. And for me and my family, I knew that this would be huge for us. My mom wouldn't have to worry about, sending me to the University of Michigan. She knew I'd be in good hands. And also just seeing, David Robinson and my caddy master, Pat McGowie, in the crowd, and several of my Red Run members that I caddied for years. It was just emotional because they also knew how invested I was and how much I wanted it.
Yeah.
So, when you see those faces in the crowd, it's tough for you.
Well, it's real life stuff, right? So there are many aspects of golf when we talk about life-changing experiences that are connected directly to how well you play. There are scholarships for how well you play. There's trophies for how well you play. You don't usually think about that in terms of how well you've studied, how effective you are as a caddy, how you present yourself. This program is so unique because it rewards the parts of growth that don't often get rewarded or even recognized, really. So I can understand, certainly. And then you have mom, in the back of your mind, or maybe even in the front of your mind, like, man, she's sacrificed so much for us. This would be an incredible blessing. So now here we are a few years later, and my understanding is that your goal in life is to just stare in people's mouths for a very long time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's to treat oral diseases and help people out for sure. My goal is to be a dentist.
What led you to that field of study?
To be honest, it's crazy because I wrote about this in my admissions letter for dental schools that the cycle that I just applied to. It was actually caddying, just being out there caddying for dentists. At Red Run, there are a few dentists that I've gotten to have established great relationships with. And I also always grew up having a great dentist myself. But just knowing more about the profession from the golfers that I caddied for was very intriguing to me. And yeah, just learning how it's similar to caddying, where you're just helping people, and it's also beneficial to you in your growth as a person. So so just being out on the golf course and learning more about the profession from the dentist I was caddying for would definitely spark my interest in the profession.
Yeah, and Dave, one of the things I want to make sure we clarify for everybody who has piqued their interest in this Evans program and maybe would consider donating to it, is that all of these students are free to choose the vocation that they feel most led to pursue, right? They don't have to go in any certain path. They're not going to be caddies forever. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to give them a helping hand up as they launch into whatever career they choose, right?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to choose anything. I mean, we're in the business of educating young women and young men. And, you know, many of them go into college with a dream of, I want to major in this. And Ainslie will tell you, well, as long as I've known Ainslie, he always wanted to be a dentist. So he's probably a little more the exception. But I mean, probably more than 50% of our kids, they may want to go in, they may embark upon their college career wanting to be an engineer or you know, teacher or something. And then by their second year, they've found a different interest or a different aspiration, and they'll change their major. And so, you know, we're not major focused. We're not focused. We are education focused, and they have such a great opportunity to live in our houses with a very diverse group of young women and men. And it's a great culture for them. We have great mentoring programs, and you know, we're just hoping that they graduate with, well, not only graduate, but, you know, another stat that I'd like to throw out there is that, think about this for a minute, Bill. We have 1,100 kids in school right now across 22 universities across the country, and we have an average GPA of 3.4.
Wow.
Of those 1,100 kids.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's remarkable in and of itself. And we'd like to think that the culture that we put these kids, expose them to and put them in is a factor in that. But no, it's not curriculum based. They can choose whatever they'd like to do.
So as we kind of wind things down, David, let me ask what you would want from our audience. How can people listening or watching this conversation help?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we're really proud of is that we've been responsible for the growth of the game with youth caddy programs. And so, you know, particularly on the East Coast, where a lot of those clubs there have had adult caddy programs. And sometimes they've seen and recognized the transformative nature of youth caddy programs and the Evans Scholarship. And so we're really happy with the growth of youth caddy programs. But for anyone out there who's interested in trying to identify a club where their son or daughter would like to caddy, they can go to WGA ESF, which stands for the Western Golf Association Evans Scholars Foundation. So WGAESF.org. And there's a caddy locator feature on that website. And all they do is type in their zip code, and they'll have a choice of clubs near where they live, where they can go and apply to become a caddy at one of those clubs. And so I would just encourage people to invest in the youth of America by taking youth caddies, number one, and if they're inspired to do so, to contribute to the Evans Scholars Foundation. It's a remarkable program.
So last word's going to go to Ainslie.
As it should.
If I put you in front of a room of 300 strangers who don't have any idea what this Evans Foundation is all about, and if it really makes a difference, and you've got 60 seconds to drive it home, what's your message to those who are wondering, is this thing for real?
Yes, I would say that the Evans Scholar Foundation is a program that helps underrepresented individuals get a chance to go to school for free. The Evans Scholar Foundation assists students with living arrangements and also tuition costs. The Evans Scholar Foundation also establishes a community of young women and men who can grow friendships, and they all have a commonality at hand, which is caddying. This program, it means a lot to me personally, but more so it means a lot to the families of the Evans Scholars, and also to the individuals who contribute to the program. That's one thing I would say.
That's pretty good. I mean, we could probably turn you loose for about a half hour and have that. And then at the end, we pass an offering plate, and we probably have the program funded, for the next couple of years. So, Ainsley, congratulations. And I'm so happy for you. But, as a dad and as a grandpa, I'm also really happy for your mom, because you start to feel these family legacy moments as you get older, and you wonder, have I left my kids in a good position? And have I brought them up the way that I always wanted to? And you're a sharp young man, as evidenced by the fact that you're at the University of Michigan. Very well spoken. And I have no doubt that at some point, when you walk that stage for the final time and head off into your career of dentistry, that you'll make a huge impact on people all over the place. So it's a pleasure to meet you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Hobson. The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah, and Dave, thanks for opening my eyes up to this young man's story, and we're happy to help tell the story of the Evans Foundation. It is a game changer for sure.
Thanks for the time, Bill. I really appreciate the opportunity to tell our story. I like to say we have a great story to tell. We just need more storytellers.